Quite a welcome. I'm so thrilled to be here today because this is really a passion of mine. I've stopped lecturing and teaching, but this is something I still do because the tools that I'm going to teach you today and the process that I'll teach you is something that has I've applied directly in my own business and has guided my decision making along the way and kept us in good stead. And separated us from the competition, I think. But it's also, I don't want you to just take my word for this, this is also a process that's applied and used at Stanford. It's kind of the course that this is derived from is called Startup Garage at the business school. And it's a combination, we call the course where D meets B because it's where the business school and the design school come together. And I often get people asking me, well, you know, this is a design thinking workshop, but I'm really confused because it's associated with the business school. How does that work? And actually the two go together hand in hand. And I'll explain what I mean by that briefly. But before I jump in, I just want to show you a video that gives you a bit of a flavor for the course and also for what will be a flavor for what we'll be doing today. Whoa! Sorry, I've got some prototyping music still going. Let's try that again.
And you've discovered that
Startup Garage is a
Full screen. Sorry, I'm just trying to go full screen. Here we go.
the strongest part of your argument so far is like there is a need, and you've discovered that.
Startup Garage is a hands-on project-based course where students go from idea to company in the course of 2 quarters.
Because 500 people are going to become 1,000, 2,000, 4,000.
It's very active and interactive.
Getting together, collaborating, brainstorming.
It feels like a garage in there. The energy, it really is an incubator.
We're going to ask, can we interview your employees about how they would feel about this type of product?
Community startup classes are about thinking or researching. We really want students to actually try.
The teams are where the magic happens.
We have students from the med school, from policy department, engineering.
They're going to bring something new to the table in terms of skill sets, but they also bring a whole different life perspective.
So you can bring the students together. You can give them framework and great things can happen.
We had done this for 6 months, and by the time we went out and hit the road, we had spoken to a lot of the investors that we went back to and asked for money.
Within 5 months, you're ready to pitch an investor.
We're 3MD, we're the professional network for physicians.
Hi, grab a seat.
For doctors, if you will.
Real idea about the class.
Can one of you jump onto this table and 2 here?
Property, a couple of physician friends through that. As you see here, it's a sizable revenue business and EBITDA business went public.
One of you over here, yeah, and 2 here. We just need an even number at each table. Yeah.
Providing us the forum, the stage, the practice, the focus, the good feedback. You and then unfundable entrepreneurs, just with another idea.
You need to change the mentality. You need to change the mentality. Seeing the excitement, the enthusiasm of the students, seeing them get to the nose, and then embrace the ISO preparation process, that's fun.
Definitely a life-changing experience.
Instead of reading or listening to lectures, we actually just sit down and get things done.
This is the new way that people are going to do startups.
Okay, so I was involved in creating and teaching this course, and I can tell you that quite a number of the teams that went through this process have gone on to raise Series A, B, C in financing and develop viable products. And they will all swear that their origins starting here were what led to their success and have continued to help them on that path. I mean, when you start out and you have an idea or you've identified a problem, you know, there's a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and then it's like sort of deer in the headlights. What do I do next? What steps do I take? And I think early stage and especially first-time entrepreneurs often lack a process and a system to guide them when you have multiple competing priorities. And so today, I'm going to work you through an innovation process that it is a process. So the premise here is that innovation is not just a lightning bolt idea or incident that happens in a moment. You know, it's not the apple falling on your head or this amazing epiphany that you have one day in the shower or anything along those lines. That actually it's a process, and it's continuously repeating certain actions And the idea behind that is that we create an environment that's conducive to creative accidents. So today we're going to become creatively accident prone. And what that means is going through a certain series of processes that allow for out-of-the-box ideas to emerge, and learning about our users and how to identify and create, solve unmet needs. So where are we going with this? So this is the innovation process in that course that I just showed you, and it starts with exploration and immersion. So really understanding, hi guys, feel free to take a seat. Understanding and immersing yourself in the problem space, and understanding your users and interviewing them, to defining a point of view statement, so crystallizing a statement of the need or the problem that you're actually solving, ideating a range of solutions and then prototyping those, and then testing them, and then iterating repeatedly until you get to something which really fits. And so what we're working toward here is product market fit. And then developing a minimally viable product and testing that. So we're not investing in actually building something until way back here. And so up here, we can quickly and in an agile way sort of fail fast, I guess, and prototype and try a whole range of ideas before we learn where we should actually invest our time, our money, and our energies. So design thinking is a little bit of a misnomer. It's actually should be design doing, because it's much more about doing than thinking. We have a bias toward taking action. And in that vein, we're actually going to jump in today and walk through most of that process that I just described in a little under 2 hours. So it's going to be fast paced. I'm actually asking you guys to take a bit of a leap of faith on me and on this process. So just trust and kind of go with it. It'll be an intense session, so we'll be moving very quickly, and that's by design. So design thinking embraces time constraints as a part of that creative process. Does everyone have their wallets on them? Do you want to hand those? No, it's all right. We're actually going to be taking on the design challenge of reinventing the wallet. Why the wallet? Okay, well, everyone here has had some sort of experience with a wallet or a purse. It's kind of a physical manifestation that gives hints at our lifestyle and our choices, and a little bit more meaning about our lives. And it's also something that we can all relate to. However, although we're going to be redesigning the wallet, the lessons in this process apply to just about any other problem space that you might want to tackle.
Sorry, you don't have any association with Bellroy in any chance?
With who?
Bellroy.
Bellroy? No.
It's an Australian company designing wallets.
Oh, okay. No, I do not. No, I don't. But if you develop some intellectual property today, you can feel free to share that with them. No, I do not. Okay, so yeah, no commercial associations. We've chosen a different topic every time I've been here, so that's a random association. Okay, so on your desks are workbooks. So if you want to grab one of those workbooks, and what was your name, sorry? Joey, would you mind just coming over here? We just need an even number of people per table. I think we're good now. Great. Oh, actually, no, we're short one. You can choose a table.
I may have to step out for the second half because I'm one of the coordinators.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Yeah, actually, sorry. Would you mind joining this table instead? Sorry, musical chairs today. And for the first half, if you guys, I'll show you how to do this together for the first half. That's fine. Okay. All right. So if you turn to the first page in your handbook, you'll see a blank space, and I'd like you to take the next 3 minutes to design the ideal wallet. So just put it down there, top of your head, your ideal wallet. 3 minutes. Okay, so clock starts now. All right, how did that feel? got a thumbs up. Some people, yeah?
I think it was one of the reasons why I found it to be challenging was that I think a lot of people probably thought about what a wallet might encompass, and I had a hard time coming up with anything that was different from what I already knew.
Okay.
And I feel like I selected my wallet that I currently use because it is my ideal wallet, so I pretty much just drew my wallet.
Drew your wallet, okay, right. And actually, the first ideas we usually come up with are the most obvious ones that have already been thought of, and trying to get past that is kind of tricky. All right, anyone else? How did you find that? Yeah?
Well, I've never really considered what I like about a wallet versus what I don't like about a wallet, right? So you have to kind of filter through all that.
Right. It's not something...
Wallets that you've seen, that you've had, just going down memory lane and kind of picking out what I want to actually draw.
Right, So you haven't given it much thought before, really in depth, so we're trying to reflect on your own experiences and preferences, yeah?
Yeah, I just figured out like what columns I have with my wallet right now, so.
Trying to think about
Sort of fix that.
problems you're currently having. Yeah. With your wallet. With your wallet. Is there one at the back there?
I was pretty much going to
Say the same thing, like what are my current frustrations? Right. Okay, cool. All right, well what we just did was kind of the traditional way of problem solving, where we sit down, we have a problem that we want to solve, and we design for ourselves based on our own opinions, experiences, what we're currently using and doing. And that's kind of great if you want to design something for yourself. But most of the time we don't. We actually want to design for an audience other than ourselves. And so how do we sort of shift from our own biased perspective and set of experiences to a broader user base? So we're going to try something different now, which is called human-centered design. And human-centered design has as at its heart empathy. So it's really about learning and understanding the experiences and challenges that your users have. So that requires adopting a beginner's mindset, so kind of a childlike mentality, like a curiosity and questioning everything. It's being inquisitive and asking a lot of questions, finding patterns and being a great listener, and being completely impartial and non-judgmental in that process. It's also about observing, so watching how people interact. So there's the kind of known knowns, so people reporting their experiences, and then there's the unknown unknowns. And so often people don't even realize, like you're saying, I don't know what my challenges are with my wallet. Well, observing can really help. If you go to a retail checkout and watch people and how they interact, there's a lot of unconscious processes and challenges people have. And when you're observing, one of the surefire ways to identify an opportunity for innovation is to look for a workaround. Well, being a fly on the wall, looking for workarounds. So can anyone tell me what's happening here? Can you see that? Yeah?
Yeah, tucking the bag.
Yeah, right? The tag of the tea bag under the cup. Why might they be doing that? Stop it from flying around or falling in, or maybe the cup overheats and there's an extra layer. And this one here, you can't quite see it, but there's a ribbon going out, running flight, that someone's attached a red ribbon to the projector. Why do you think they might have done that? Yeah, so you can see if the fan is on. So these are kind of workarounds where someone's been frustrated enough to go out of their way to find their own little workaround solution. And that's kind of a surefire way to know that there's an opportunity here. So when we talk about starting with empathy, our goal is to listen and connect with people. So we're becoming ethnographers. We're seeking stories. We're seeking to understand beliefs and experiences and to dig a little bit deeper. So with that said, the person sitting next to you is your customer. You're going to be designing for them now as opposed to for yourself. And so the first step is to gain empathy, and so that's to understand their experience of the wallet. So we're going to interview them for 4 minutes, and then they'll interview you for 4 minutes. And what you want to understand is their experience of the wallet. So you might even get them to show you their wallet. You might ask them about a recent experience they had with their wallet, certain cards or items that are in there, or try and get at how does their wallet kind of what does their wallet tell you about them as a person? We will jump straight in. Make sure you take notes. You want to take very detailed notes about any insights that you learn along the way as you're interviewing. So first 4 minutes starts now. Okay, guys, you want to wrap it up now? Okay, quite a buzz, all sorts of stories flying around the room. How did that feel? Was that different? Thumbs up. How did it feel?
Really good.
Yeah? What was different this time? Why was it
Well, it wasn't
good?
just about you, it was about understanding what somebody else wants and actually, potentially being able to find a solution for mass market.
Right, and were their needs different to yours originally? Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat, and I think it was really interesting also to see that, somebody, when we were talking, you'd have an idea, and then I'd be like, all right, well, and it would kind of evolve into, something farther.
Right,
along. Yeah, it was more like a brainstorming almost.
Awesome.
Part of the interview.
Great.
I found it easier to write down kind of like concrete characteristics of a wallet by talking to somebody else and finding out what is specifically about the wallet that they might be interested in, as opposed to when I was thinking about a wallet, be like, oh yeah, kind of like this. Like I was like kind of I find it more difficult to identify particular characteristics of my wallet that I knew that
Right.
I liked. But talking to somebody, talking about specific, maybe the design, it needs to be a certain color or shape or whatever. You can kind of pick out those things that I found was easier in conversation with somebody.
Right. I mean, so there's a couple of things that I picked up that when I went around the room, like you guys at the back, it was this observation that the needs of the two in the front were probably quite different to yours. And so there's very different preferences. And in fact, here we probably represent, how many segments of a market and how many different solutions. And exactly is the point that you don't want to end up designing something that tries to please everyone but ultimately pleases no one. You want to be designing for a specific, we call it a composite character, a user that represents a group of stakeholders that you're designing for. Now, at this stage, we shouldn't really be talking in terms of solutions. We're really just understanding the needs. So why would there be a certain color or material preference? What is it about your interviewee that makes them say that they would like that kind of thing? So there's some tips. Some of you might have got a bit stuck, like, oh, I've asked a few questions, they seem all right. Or, that's the obvious problem. So let's look at how we can get past the obvious to peeling away the onion layers to the deeper need. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so yeah, how do we kind of get the genie out of the bottle, so to speak, from their experiences and tap into those unknown unknowns? So an interview has a certain anatomy to it. The first part is often building rapport and getting them to kind of trust you and open up to you and that you're not completely crazy, which might seem off the bat like you are if you're asking them all about their wallet. And then it's evoking stories. And stories have a really nice way of giving people those aha moments of realizing an insight that they hadn't forgotten, especially if they haven't thought about their wallet in a little while. And storytelling also leads to emotions. And so we kind of want to dig in around two sides. One, what is the best case scenario for this person? What would really delight them? What is a win for the user where they've been really excited or ecstatic with the result? How can we go above and beyond for them? And the other side is what has frustrated the hell out of them? What has been the worst experience that they've had, whether they've lost their wallet or something happened or whatever it might be, and it will be different for every person. So evoking those stories and exploring those emotions really helps us to get to the heart of the pain points. And we want to be designing for problems that are really acute, that solve a serious problem. Now, the pink line represents insights, and as you can see, there's a little inflection at the end. That's the golden nugget. So one thing that we've noticed is that when you do an interview, it's often right at the end, at the last minute, just as you're walking away, that they'll throw you a gem. So just be prepared when you're doing interviews that as you wrap up, they'll be holding on to something that they often let go. So inviting them and asking them what you haven't asked them, and if there's something else they'd like to share at the end, is a really good idea. Now, one of my colleagues at the design school at Stanford has put together a fantastic guide to how to around how to run a really successful interview. And interviews, when I do an interview, they usually go for between 1 and 2 hours. And then I'm not even nearly done then. So the right interviews with the right questions can really get people talking and open up a lot of new deep insights. So we're just going to listen to these rules of Engage Club now. It's a nice little parody on Fight Club. Bring this back to the beginning. Oh, actually, I've done it again. Sorry, guys.
One being engaged, we know them, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and gives the user more freedom to
Sorry.
One being engaged, or interview. I think engage is a more appropriate word for it, just because you're not so much as having to say one-on-one interview, but you're having a conversation and you're engaging user in a conversation. So how do you make a good question? How do you form a good question? I've made a quick set of rules that might be easier to remember because I've kind of played off made a parody of the Fight Club rules. So I'll go through them right now. Engage Club. First rule, you do not say usually when asking a question. So if Ed Norton says, when do you usually eat ramen? No, do not do that. Rephrase that into something like, tell me about the last time you ate ramen. So you want to go for specific instances and specific stories and draw those out of the user. You don't want to understand or have them respond to their average experience. The second rule, you do not say usually when asking a question. So that's one thing you take away from this. Just keep that in mind and be on the lookout when you're asking questions to see if you ever say that. So for example, Ed Norton says, where do you usually eat ramen? No, that's totally wrong. Something like, what's your favorite ramen restaurant? Getting them to tell you more specifics will lead you to better insights. Third rule, if someone says, I think, or states a belief, or seems to prefer one thing over another, then the conversation is not over. Ask why that's important. So I'll give you an example. Ed Norton says, why don't you think ramen is good date food? And then Brad Pitt says, well, ramen has this connotation that it's cheap. And then Ed Norton follows up with, interesting. Why does that matter to you? So that's a great example of listening to the user's response and then going deeper into that response by asking why. Do not go on to a different subject or ask the next question kind of on your sheet. Dig deeper. Why is a great go-to question if you don't know what to ask next. So the fourth rule, only 10 words to a question. Keep the question short. So this is an example of a bad question. Because of the rising price of oil, airlines are doing everything possible to lower their expenses, and passenger meals is an area in which they see opportunity. Therefore, they have been experimenting with giving passengers top ramen as their in-flight meal. What do you think about this? The interviewee is going to be lost, so stick to really short questions, not requiring a lot of backstory. Something like, you mentioned ramen being the most unideal travel food. Why? It's a great way to sum all of that previous question up. The fifth rule is one question at a time. How would you redesign the ramen experience? That's a pretty broad question, and sure, you might want to get the users to do your homework for you, but no, you got to divide it up. They're not going to know where to begin or what to even respond to in that question. So it's your job to create a series of questions that will get you to what they see that needs to be improved about the ramen experience. So a better example would be, so tell me about the last time you ate ramen. Again, starting with that specific instance. Sixth rule, no binary questions, no leading questions. Since ramen is such a heavy meal, is ramen better for lunch or for dinner? No. What if they don't have ramen for lunch or for dinner? Maybe ramen is something they eat, right before going to bed, and that's not, they've already had dinner. A better question would be, at about what time did you eat when you last ate ramen? So this gets away from the meals as we know them, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and gives the user more freedom to express, well, what is his meal or her meal schedule like? He says probably at around 9 p.m. And Ed Norton says, well, what was the last thing you ate before the ramen? What was the next thing you ate? So you get an idea as to, well, was this a snack, or was this his dinner, or what meal was this for him? Seventh rule, a conversation started from one question will go on as long as it has to. So Ed Norton says, so tell me about the last time you ate ramen. And Brad Pitt says, I ate it for breakfast yesterday. And then Ed Norton, being the very kind of bad interviewer that he is, says, do your friends like ramen? What? No, stop. Brad Pitt just told you that he ate ramen for breakfast yesterday. You want to know more about that. So, like I said before, I mean, it's great to come up with a list of questions before going into an interview, but don't stick strictly to that schedule.
Okay. Rule number 8 is to record your interviews. So I know that's quite a long video, but actually the points there are extremely important. And often when we do take shortcuts and say usually and fall for those kind of or jump to the next question, it's because of our own discomfort, not the interviewees. So sitting with silences, asking why and why again. You know, you might feel a little dumb doing that, it might feel uncomfortable at first, but it gives your interviewee a chance to really think and reflect. And phrasing the questions in this way is going to get you a lot more rich insights that you can work with. And the insights that you gather are ultimately going to become the fodder for your solution. And so if you're only getting superficial level of interview, your solution will, you know, only address that level of need. So we really want to dive deeper. So I've kind of gone through and prepared a couple of questions that you may want to use next, but we're now going to have another go at interviewing, this time digging deeper now that we have some new skills. So just take 1 minute, I think the next page you've got dig deeper. Just take 1 minute to write down some interview questions that you'd like to ask to follow up with your user. And then we're going to go ahead and do a second round of interviews, this time digging a little deeper. Okay, so just take 1 minute now and then I'll tell you when we're ready to start interviewing again. And this is a bit of a cheat sheet just in case, but try and think about your earlier interview and what follow-up questions you'd like to ask. And try and get past the wallet to their broader needs as well. Hard to stop you guys now you're on a runaway train. What have I unleashed? Well, how did that feel? Was that a bit different that time? Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I definitely heard a lot more stories being invoked that time and a lot less awkward shifting in seats. So and a lot more hand gestures going on. So it seemed like we got to another level there, which was great. So, you know, we're obviously going through the process that I described at the beginning, which usually takes 6 months, and we're doing this in 2 hours. And so let me just tell you kind of for a minute now, when you're applying this to your design and your innovation opportunity, you'd be interviewing, you know, upward of 20, 30 people and taking a lot of notes or video recording that. And eventually, and I can guarantee you when you move on to the next interviewee, you're going to forget so much of what you heard in the previous interview, which is why fastidious taking of notes and capturing that is so important. But in the end, you've got this sea of, you know, insights. And so probably your user had several different frustration points or needs that came up, as well as several things that their kind of aspirations are. And so how do we go from all of these insights and information to one kind of opportunity and problem statement? So the process we would usually go through is called space saturation. And that's where we go through and, you know, either take our written notes or our recorded playback of the interview, and we're writing on separate post-it notes thoughts, feelings, beliefs, behaviors that our interviewee have mentioned. And we're just getting them all up on the board. And we're doing that with all of the interviewees. Then we go through and we cluster. So we find different groups or themes that have emerged. And we cluster into 3 buckets. We're looking for anything that identifies the user. So, you know, their personality, their personal preferences. What is there something about them, adjectives that describe them? Are they, you know, professional? Are they casual? Are they their age, something about them that's unique, as well as a feeling. You really want to try and bake a feeling in there as well. Are they frustrated? Are they confident? What is it? And then there's the need. So we're putting any of the needs or frustrations that they expressed that came up in the interview in that bucket. And then finally, the insight. So this is something surprising that came out that's very unique to them and kind of meaningful, that adds a little bit of a twist that you wouldn't otherwise expect to find. So for example, this is one example of a point of view statement. A constantly traveling young professional who needs to feel comfortable and efficient because his wallet is awkwardly sized, so he's forced to look at cards he doesn't need but feels obligated to carry. So that's like one example of a problem statement. So let me just, there we go. So there's a couple of things to note. We're not just saying the name and age here. We're really trying to bake in something about this person that makes us feel empathy for them and think of them as a person and not just a he or a she or their age. And that really motivates and inspires us to solve the problem for them. Again, the need is not so obvious, and it should be a little bit meaningful. That one's kind of an obvious need. Hopefully you can do better than that. But this is something that came out of the interview. What is something in your interview that you would never have thought of unless you interviewed that person? Something that's quite unique to them. And then your insight here, again, surprising. It's not just a reason for the need. And the insight really gets at, their beliefs or aspirations. What are they really kind of needing there? So I'm just going to, a good point of view statement should inspire you to actually solve a problem for them and design for them. It should not have a solution baked into it. They don't need, a color-coded wallet. They need, a way to identify different aspects of their wallet or whatever it might be. So try not to build or mention the solution in the point of view statement. There needs to be an actionable opportunity and meaningful insights. So as much as you can use their words in the POV, try and do that. You can also make inferences based on what you had discussed with them as well. Okay, so we're going to go through this process now. And remember in the process diagram I showed you, we were flaring earlier. Now we're narrowing. So it's a little bit, this is quite a tricky, I think it's one of the hardest parts of the process actually. So we're going to just distill and synthesize our findings by writing down the goals and wishes of your partner and what they're trying to achieve more broadly. Any of the needs that came up, any insights about their feelings or motivations, and then we're going to shift over to actually writing your own point of view statement. Are you up for it? Any questions before we jump in? We'll see how you go. It won't be perfect the first time, and a point of view statement often changes based on your, growing understanding of your user's need. But this, you really want to bake in the rich, juicy parts of your interview here because this is going to be the basis for your problem solving. Okay, so let's get going. I'll start the clock. So 3 minutes to just synthesize, and then we're going to write our point of view statement. All right, well done, guys. I know that's been a pretty intensive first half of the session. So if you want to take a break now, we'll take 5 minutes just to stretch your legs or use the bathroom. I think there might be coffee and snacks out there as well. And you're welcome to the Mars bars and Twixes on the table as well.